Hello and welcome to Healthy, Fit, and Pain-Free Pittsburgh. I am your co-host Ryan Wade, as always, with Doc T.
What's going on, everybody?
Hey, so today we are diving into the realm of the caregivers. And if you don't know, here at Inner Strength, we primarily work with people over the age of 50. And typically in that phase of life, we see so many people who their primary job in life, despite what their career may be, is that they are becoming the primary caregiver, be it for a parent, be it for a child, be it for somebody important in their life that needs assistance. And a big issue that we see a lot is people hurting themselves being a caregiver.
Yep.
Right, and Doc can speak to this, being somebody who has experience in kind of assisted living facilities and things like of that nature. There's a requisite level of strength and a requisite level of importance to taking care of yourself that I think a lot of people who have very good intentions of being the best caregivers possible kind of just put off in the name of being the best, being the most attentive to the person, I should say. Mm-hmm. Right, and so we wanted to start today off with a little story, and it's about a lady. We'll call her Tracy. Right, and Tracy is not unlike these other ladies that I'm telling you about that are caregivers for her aging parent, right? And just as I was just mentioning, she with all the intent of providing all the best care to her parent, all the attention to her aging parent, Tracy put off a lot of other things outside of her career, right? And so the path that I saw Tracy go on, and Tracy was a 6-week giveaway winner. We're currently working with Connie, a 6-week giveaway winner in 2021. And so it kind of brought me up and remembered Tracy that she was a 6-week giveaway winner and wanted to get healthy, wanted to lose weight, wanted to get stronger. And so she began by having the greatest intentions of taking that 1 hour a day to come in and work on her health, her body, her strength.
Yay, Tracy.
Yay, Tracy, right? Exactly. However, right, not long into that, now Tracy was admittedly about 60 pounds overweight, right? Had not been in the greatest eating habits because she spent all of her time preparing food for the parent, right, who probably needed special dietitian or dietary accommodations, right? But not long into the 6-week giveaway, Tracy was lifting her mom up off the ground and tore her MCL, right?
Boo, torn MCL.
Boo, torn MCL, right? And unfortunately, that obviously caused a downward spiral for Tracy. Not only not being able to care for herself and take care of her health and make her, herself feel better, have more energy, get stronger, and live the life, a lot better that she can. But I would venture to say, and I don't know this for a fact because, Tracy kind of fell off at that point, that Tracy was unable to give the care that she had so admirably been dedicated to giving her mother because her body was not prepared enough to take care of that parent. Mm-hmm. And this is not unlike a lot of other situations that we see. The point of building strength, Doc can correct me if I'm wrong, the point of building strength is to be strong while you don't have to be so that you have it when you have to be.
Yep.
Yeah? Okay?
Yeah.
And so a lot of times people think that building strength, it's just I just want to be strong. Well, for what? We should have a reason.
Yeah.
Right? And you don't have to be an iron sport athlete, powerlifter, Olympic lifter, CrossFitter, blah, 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 to want to build strength when it's not essential so that whenever you do need it in that time, you have it.
Yeah.
Right? And so, the focus here today with this episode is for us to show not only the importance, because I think that we've already driven that point, but how exactly to put that focus on you and what things to look at, how to strengthen your body without looking at your body in terms of biceps, triceps, quads, calves, abdominals, right? Butts, right? Although butts. Right? And so, today we want to stress the importance that we know that there's a lot of you caregivers out there that need to strengthen your body when you don't have to have the strength. So then when your parent, God forbid, falls or has an accident and they need you at that time more than ever to be able to quite literally and figuratively lift them up, right? That you can do that.
Mm-hmm.
Now, Doc, I know you wanted to share another example. If my slightly probably more than long-winded story didn't hit home, can you just break that down for us?
Well, so and people kind of take this as a simple approach, and for instance, they kind of look at this as like, oh, Ryan, that's great, but my situation's different. Like, you don't know the situation that I'm in, and blah blah blah. And sure, but you got to think of being a caregiver as like a van or like an SUV or like your vehicle that you get around with. So like if you're a mom, for instance, if you that van or that vehicle, it's used to carry groceries, it's used to get you from point A to point B, it's used to drive your kids everywhere, it gets you to and from work, it helps you to get resources. That vehicle is very important. However, if it comes to the point that you don't rotate the tires, you don't get new tires, you don't do oil change, you don't do all the required maintenance, eventually that vehicle is going to break down. And what happens the day that vehicle breaks down and you don't have the funding to get a new vehicle? You're screwed. You are literally screwed. And, now sure, you can argue, well, I got the funds, I can just buy a new vehicle. Well, that's great. However, you can't buy a new you.
You also can't buy any more time, right?
Exactly.
We don't need to get into like the time and money, what's the word?
Conflict, whatever, yeah.
Yeah, like we can always go find a way to find more money. We can never find another way to go find more time.
Sure.
And so that's why this is such an important topic today, is that when we're dealing and caring for anyone who's important to us, and I have a 2-year-old and a 4-year-old, like, God willing, I have a long, long time with both of them.
Mm-hmm.
But I am trying to make the most of every second, right? And so I can only imagine dealing with an elderly parent, how much an injury to me as a caregiver is going to affect not only my body, but my psyche, and just trying to make the most of the moments that I do have.
Yeah, no, for sure. And that's the thing. That's what a lot of times we see here is typically, with the ladies who are a little bit older, who have their parents are aging, they come to us because they have hit that point. They've hit that point of no return where, they aren't able to keep up with them. They aren't able to keep up with their typical daily task, and they have let themselves go. And eventually, like, they see their parents, especially, with things nowadays, if your parent is in their 80s and they're about ready to die, and you're someone who's in their 50s, well, you're looking at maybe 15, 20 years till you're in that same situation. So that's where, you can turn back time and you can make a change. And so, yeah.
All right. So, enough with the storytelling, enough with the examples. Doc and Ryan tell me exactly what to do to start to build this essential caregiver strength while I can, right? Mm-hmm. And so we've identified kind of 4 different categories of quote unquote just strength or improving physical capabilities, where people often find themselves getting injured when caregiving, all right? And first is what we all kind of think of is the worst case situation, is that the person falls, and we have to lift them up off the ground, right? Now, it's a lot easier to pick up a toddler whenever they fall on the ground, and some people really hurt themselves doing that, right? Now, let's take that and let's assume an average weight of at least 170, 180 pound person.
I thought you were going to say age. I was like, what the
hell
are you going for?
386. My papa didn't make Master Tinker until he was 147. Anyway, 170, 180 pound person, right? Yeah. And, if you have not lifted 170, 180 pounds of just sagging weight, right?
It's awkward.
It's very awkward, right? It is not like balanced, right?
Not to mention if they're someone who is has dementia or anything like that, they can become combative. And so now you got 180 pounds swinging at you while you're
and moving 180 pounds, if not more. And so, what we want to express is that you practice lifting things off the ground. Ideally, things that can possibly be unbalanced and move, i.e. water jugs. Sandbags. If you have a boxing bag, practice getting down on the ground. Now, this requires requisite kind of combo hip mobility for you to be able to squat down, but also the core stability to be able to keep your spine in a stable, upright position so that you don't hurt your back, right?
Yeah.
When we don't have that requisite strength to be able to keep our spine straight up and we start to bend and lift with our lower back, that's when we start throwing out our back, right? And so, when we are telling you to practice lifting up off the ground, we are not saying that you have to go and immediately start deadlifting.
I just realized how unnecessary the term deadlifting is right now.
Sure. Right. Deadlifting, for those not in the know, is simply doing what we're saying, which is lifting, quote unquote, dead weight off the ground.
It's called live lifting.
Live lifting, or just weightlifting from the ground.
Yeah.
Okay. But the point remains. We want to squat down. And by the way, we are going to post a video immediately after we are done with this podcast onto Healthy, Fit, and Pain-Free Pittsburgh, our Facebook group, for people to go and check out the exercises that we were talking about. So this will be labeled Lift Off, live lifting, and we will show exactly the form to be able to lift this weight off the ground. But the point remains is to start small, right, with something that you can manage. Slowly start to build up. Right? They do make, and I don't even know what they're called because we don't use them in the gym, but they do make these big like tubes that have handles, right? Which would probably be a very good tool in this scenario, right? To be able to practice with. So lifting up off the ground, being able to get down in a stable position, yet not in a too much of a flexed or forward bending position is probably going to be a very good thing to practice. You got anything to add?
No, I like
Okay,
it.
you want to take the next one?
Cool. Yeah. The next one is teaching to get up off the floor. So, even if you have somebody else, and if, let's say you have your parent did fall, and there's someone they're able to get up themselves, but they're just, they don't have the knowledge to. You yourself should understand how to do it. Now, granted, there's trained, skilled people out there to teach you this, but one thing, to always mention is, whenever people are on the floor, even, we've had ladies in here right now that are working on it, everyone likes to just think about the end result. They're on the floor and they need to stand up. And then they can't just, get from a low squat and stand up. So that's the intimidating part. It's always breaking it down into smaller pieces to get up. So, for instance, if you're able to do it, if you're on the floor, if you're able to roll over and kind of get yourself into what's called a quadruped position where you're on your hands and on your knees. And then you go from there to where you can bring one knee up and get yourself to where you're kneeling. And then you can push with your hands, you can push with that leg to get yourself up into a standing position.
You can grab something that's around you and assist to pull yourself out of that position also works.
Yep. Yeah, exactly. Just watch what you pull on because...
Yeah, make sure that that's fixed to the ground.
Yes, I've had people before who thought that pulling on a shelf was going to get them up. And instead they brought the shelf down with them.
Yeah, right. And so I was actually... We brought up Connie, our 6-week giveaway winner, who's going to does some videos for us right now. And but Connie's a caregiver. Right, not only for just her husband on an everyday basis, and her husband's in good health for all things that we're aware of, but she does take care of her daughter who has Down syndrome, right? And so Connie brought to me this story that whenever she fell, all the worry and the fear that used to come with falling, right? Or slipping on ice, which actually did happen, and we're going to get to that point. But, who is going to be the caregiver for Connie and her, I just mentioned to her the other day, Connie, you always tell me you have a new child, right? And all of her kids are over 18, but every time I meet her, I feel like she tells me about a new kid, right? So I think I'm at a count of 4. She might have 18, I don't know. But her being the primary caregiver for her daughter with Down syndrome is something that's always on her mind. And so, a couple weeks ago, we are toward the end of January now, thank God. And we are, and Connie a couple weeks ago slipped on the ice, right? And so where the fear used to just overtake her mind at that point, right? Now, Connie had hand surgery a couple weeks before that, for some feeling loss or something like that, right? And while she did split open her stitches, right, she said normally I would be laying there, my stitches would be down and it would be out, and I'd be bleeding and laying on the ground and not be able to get anywhere, but I got up.
Yeah.
Right? And sure, maybe I had a bruise and maybe my hand was a little busted up, but I got up and I didn't have all the fear that came to me at that point, right? And I think we can't, there's no way we can put a price tag on that. There's no way we can put a value on that. Having peace of mind is having peace of mind. And if you are somebody who is caregiving, you should be able to do the things that you fear that that person is going to do.
Yeah, I agree. And I think that's where falling gets, the fear around falling happens, is because there's a negative connotation. We all know of the Life Alert commercial of the old lady who's laying on the floor, who's yelling, "I've fallen and I can't get up."
Yeah.
And so no one wants to be that lady, and no one wants to feel old and like they can't get up.
Right.
And so I think that's a lot of the reasons why this fear of falling is so big, is because then you are considered old. Just like a walker. No one likes to use a walker because they feel old. And so that's the thing. If you can prevent that from happening,
right,
you won't feel that way.
So the way that we teach it here in Inner Strength, right, is that we start people with what's called, we do a variation, and they're all called get-up exercises, right? And it's because this is an essential life skill. Like, people should be able to get up and down on the ground freely. And we start with what's called a freestyle get-up, which is to say, we make you lay on your back and get up.
Yeah.
We don't care how you do it, right? Just get up. And we'll tell you if you're doing it, maybe it's a little unsafe the way that you're doing it, but we'll fix that as you go.
Yeah.
Right? And so we start with the freestyle get up, right? And then we start with like a limited points of contact get up, right? You can use one hand.
Yeah.
Okay, to help you get up. And then we move to a no hand get up, which is to say
no hand.
Look, ma, no hand. I can go the whole way without one. No, we don't need that right now. Anyway, so we go with the no hand get up, which is to say we lay on your back. We keep our hands off the ground. Doesn't matter where you put them. And you get to a standing position while using no hands, right? And then we start using a no hand weighted get up, where we might hold a medicine ball or something to that effect. And then we can raise the position of stability and make sure that we can hold the medicine ball over our head, which makes it a little bit more challenging. And so there's a progression to be able to do these life skills that you can train. And going to a big box gym where you're using all those machines and stuff is not going to teach you that. And I think it's also limiting a lot of people's brains on what training for strength actually is.
Sure. And going off that, dovetailing off that, whenever you're doing this too, of getting off the floor, I know there's always the comfort piece of doing it beside your couch so that you always have something to grab onto, but eventually you need to move out into, like, say, the middle of your living room where you don't have that stuff. Because if there is, heaven forbid, ever a situation I've come across before where someone's walking out in their yard and there's a hole and they lose their balance and they fall, well, now in the middle of the yard, there ain't no couch. There's nothing to grab onto, and so that's whenever you need to be able to do it on your own. So don't always use the proverbial crutch to help you whenever it comes to going through all these tasks. So.
Sure. Now, the next one, or the third place where we see a lot of people injuring themselves while caregiving, is rolling somebody out of bed or using this reaching technique to pull them closer to themselves, right? And Doc, you've had a lot more experience with this one than me, so I'm going to let you take it.
Cool. So one thing about this is we have big butts for a reason.
Like we said, yes, and butts.
And butts. We have big butts for a reason. I like big butts. Anyhow, so
please don't do it.
I'm sorry.
You're tempting me. You're tempting me time after time. I'm not falling for it this time.
Typically, he would do this. He's practicing a lot of self-control right now. But anyhow, so you have hip strength to, one, because it helps to counterbalance you, but two, because that's where all your strength is. So God forbid, if you're one of those people that you have to roll over one of your parents in bed or roll over one of your grandparents, do not make it a full just arm exercise. You're not going to bicep curl them across the bed, okay? You're not going to do a tricep push down to get them out of the bed. Use your hips, use your legs, and that's a lot of times where it's like the mechanics that people just think they want to get lazy, they want to just reach across and they want to pull. No, if you're someone especially who works out, like we talk about like RDLs and stuff like that, use those mechanics to get them out of the bed.
Yeah, possibly even more dangerous there because, like, you just told me I can't bicep curl them. Like, I'm going to bicep curl them. I don't care what you tell me, right? Well, look at the size of your bicep and look at the size of that human.
You can tell that Ryan has 2 kids because he's thinking of the hot stove right now.
You're tempting me again.
Anyhow, but there also comes in the fact that you do have to use some arms, okay? But again, people like to just use their elbow. They like to use like things like their biceps or triceps and either curl the person over, where you can easily just pull them because it's shown that pulling muscles are typically stronger than pushing muscles.
We want to utilize our back.
Yes. And by using that pulling motion, you can use, again, your hips, then your back, then eventually it'll go to like your elbow muscles to help get them over.
Sure. Think about like a rowing athlete.
Correct.
However, in a standing position.
Yes, exactly. So, and imagine like if you were to pull it off, like if you have a rope that's attached to something and you're pulling it, that's kind of what you want to do. You want to use your hips first, then you want to use your back first, then you want to use arms first. So, and that's what's going to keep you from getting hurt.
Sure. And so, utilizing that live lifting technique that we're talking about earlier, right? The transfer, I don't know why I put the wrong emphasis on the wrong syllable, the transfer, right, of the exercises that we're using, the deadlift, which is to say that it's very important, right? It's why it's one of what it's called one of the big 3, right? And it's very useful in our lives. And I'm going to say useful because I absolutely hate the term functional.
Yes. Something else to consider is, you are not going to get a blue ribbon because you pulled your 180 pound.
My pop-up didn't make Master Tinker until he was 380.
From one edge of the bed to the other. What you want to do is if you can, have them help you to roll closer to the edge of the bed. Or get on the bed and help, and in that way. Instead of just reaching across the bed and praying to God that you can get them into a burrito and get them out of bed.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Yeah. So can you talk about, what are the common injuries that people see with that technique of rolling somebody out of bed and why we're cautioning?
Sure, yeah. So typically, a lot of times I've seen back injuries. Back injuries is a huge one because, again, they'll start off trying to use their elbow first, so they'll try to bicep curl them. And when that doesn't work, then they'll just try to pull with their back to get it. So notice that you're doing the opposite order of what we talked about before. And so that's typically where you'll see them strain their back muscles and stuff like that. And then, or their neck. Their neck's another big one because they'll try to, pull with their elbow, then pull with their shoulder, and then it leads to a neck injury. So those are the 2 big ones that you typically see.
Sure. And we're going to wrap things up with something that is not just caregiver specific, but for every type of building strength specific bonus, which is overuse injuries can run rampant for anyone, and especially somebody who might be quote unquote undertrained.
Yes. Right.
And so, Doc, tell us about the endurance, building your endurance, building your stamina, and just how important that can be in terms of being a great caregiver. Sure.
So, people think that, if I just get stronger, that'll help. And sure, getting stronger is definitely going to make things easier. But a lot of times, and this isn't even just in the home. This is even, research has shown even in like, soccer games and football games, stuff like that. People typically are getting injured towards the end of the game. And why is that? It's because there is fatigue coming in. I know when I worked in a nursing home, it's typically, nurses or CNAs that towards the end of their shift or after they've worked a longer shift, they're tired, they're annoyed, they're impatient. They walk into a room, they've worked a 7-hour day, and there's someone laying there, and they're just like, I'm going to get this SOB out of bed, whatever way possible. They're already tired, mechanics go to shit, and that's typically where they get hurt. And so, if you have the endurance that you can actually go through an entire day and not feel tired and still be refreshed and still have a fresh mind, and go through these tips that we've talked about and how to properly lift them or roll them, that's going to prevent you from getting hurt. And I think that's a big problem that even as athletes, people miss out on, is they're like, all I got to do is just train strength, and that's going to make things better. But in reality, we need to also have longer duration, endurance type things that are from a half hour to an hour of doing, low to moderately, intense things, because that's what's going to build that resiliency up.
Yeah.
Care to share, Ryan?
I really don't have anything. I think you hit it all.
Cool.
To be honest, overuse injuries are typically, you're going to find out where your weak points are real quick when you're fatigued, right? And so, again, building strength when we don't need it helps us when we really do. And that's really the point of this whole episode that we just put on for you. So,
and for God forbid, if you are going to train endurance, do not get on a damn machine like an elliptical and think that's going to do it for you.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like you want to keep going. Go ahead.
No, but that's you were talking about functional earlier, and that's like where like a CrossFit. I know some of you are going to go running for the hills after I just used that term, but the one thing that they do right is the fact, and that's one thing we do here, is they program a cardiovascular based program, something that's going to get your heart rate up, get the sweat going. But they build it around full body movements because that's what actually impacts life is full body movement. Not, a lot of times people, they like to get on a bike or they like to get on an elliptical because it's an easy way to do cardio for, a longer period of time. But in reality, we have to do these, like hiking. Rucking is a good one.
Rucking, which is hiking with a backpack.
Yeah. Hiking with a backpack. And doing like different type of movements for longer periods because that's what we got to build up the robustness for. And doing an elliptical is not going to do that.
Sure. Yeah. So spare yourself the treadmill, the elliptical, the stair climber, the new combo ones that you are like all three in one that give everybody a hard on.
Remember the gazelle?
Tony Horton? I remember Tony Horton? Of course I remember Tony Horton.
No, Tony Little. Tony Horton's the 90X guy.
Okay, Tony Little, the guy with the ponytail and the visor.
Yep.
I do remember the gazelle. I believe at one point my mom had one whenever I was very young.
Yep, we had one too.
It amazes me how after years and years and years, and I think everybody has at one point had one of these pieces of cardio equipment in their house, and they've watched it collect dust, and they've watched it basically just go unused. I don't think I've ever heard of anybody being like, oh, we had this treadmill in our house whenever I was younger, and we used it all the time.
Well, what they could tell you is how many clothes they were able to hang from.
Yeah, absolutely. But yet people still buy them. I don't get it. And Peloton's done good with however, God forbid, they don't need our advertising, right? That's where the kind of the on-demand stuff is kind of starting to get a little bit more popular. But we also do on-demand stuff, and you should support small business in 2021. Segue! No, segue! Look, I'm getting better at this. Segue into all of 2021, Inner Strength Physio Fitness Athletics is supporting one local small business in the airport area of Pittsburgh, which is to say Moon Township, Robinson Township, Imperial, Oakdale, Hankey Farms, and the like. We're picking a health and wellness-based service business, spas, massage services,
health and wellness,
nutrition, and the like, right? We know just how awful 2020 beat the hell out of every small business out there. No thanks to the government. I won't go there. Totally my fault. Totally my fault. Anyway, we're supporting one small business. We know that small businesses out there are struggling. We ourselves are a small business, and we just want to help however we can. We are not this huge corporation that by any means has more means to help anybody than any of these other small businesses. What we do have is a team of really caring people on our team that just want to help. So we're going to reach out and do what we can. Every last Saturday of the month, you can sign up through our Facebook page at Healthy Fit and Pain Free Pittsburgh on Facebook to come to a benefit workout. It's an optional $20 donation for members of Inner Strength. If you want to come and you're not a member, we ask that it's a mandatory $20 donation. 100% of proceeds will go to the Small Business of the Month in January.
Which is Element Day Spa.
Element Day Spa in January this year. And also, we have a website set up where you can just go on and donate at any time. It doesn't have to be at the workout. You can donate anytime. And if you are a customer of Element Day Spa or you donate, we will give you a free month membership to Inner Strength. And if you do end up, loving it here and want to become a member, we will donate 1 month of your membership back to the Business of the Month during the month that you signed up. So we just want to do everything that we can for small businesses as we move forward, especially in the health and wellness service-based industry, because we know just how hard a time people like us had this year. So, Doc, is that all you got?
I think so.
Yeah, that's all I got.
I really, it all comes down to, and we've hit this before, but don't ever realize that when it comes to this stuff, whether you're a caregiver or whether you're a mother, or you have grandkids. I almost said grandshits now. Grandkids now. Just realize that it's never too early and it's always too late. Take advantage of it now, because there will be a day that you will sit there and you will say, one day when I have time, I'm going to do this. When my kids go off to college, I'm going to do this. When I retire, I'm going to do this. And you know what? You don't, because you will be in the same mindset as you were then as you are now. So take advantage of it now, because you will thank yourself later. Because we have hundreds of ladies here who all the time say one of their biggest gifts, and I'm not shamelessly plugging, I am being completely honest, who always say one of their biggest gifts is the fact that they started trying to change their life for the better. And those are the people that we are not going to lose one day because they hurt themselves.
Yeah. Doc, thank you. Everybody out there, thank you for listening. Whatever service you are listening on, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, YouTube, please subscribe, leave a 5-star review. It helps us more than you know. Everybody stay healthy, fit, and pain-free. And don't forget to stay shopping small all of 2021. Thank you so much.
Love you.
See you on the other side.